we go. Yeah.
All right, good morning, GM. Hello, folks, and welcome. It is Friday. It's the Good News Show right here on the Timepieces account, on the Rug Radio account, wherever you're watching us. Welcome. We have a super special show today. As you know, on Fridays, we focus on amazing builders building awesome initiatives, awesome contributions to the on-chain ecosystem. And today we've got Austin, who is head of strategy and business development for Doodles. GM.
GM. How are you doing today, Rachel?
I am great. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you guys because I've been observing how you have moved over the last kind of 12 months, and it's so exciting. You guys have been shipping, my goodness, and lots of announcements. But I would love for you to just kind of take us back into just the last kind of 6 months or so, because we didn't see this coming, but you have the first ever animated special premiering at the Toronto Film Festival. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think to tell that story from 6 months ago, that would be about the top of the year. It's probably helpful to go back 9 months ago when we met as a team in Miami. We had a leadership offsite to really dive into the future of the company, what were our core pillars, which we've aligned on being our character IP, our animation studio, and the emerging tech that we are building, and really existing at the intersection of art and technology. And at that point, we had just started kicking off our short form content on Instagram. And we're starting to iterate and get like a good feel of like what our voice was. And we had a long conversation, hours and hours with everyone from creative to product to business and partnerships, just like chatting through like how these stories should be told. And we really left that conversation with a very clear idea that it was time for us to explore long form. It was time for these characters to have their stories told. And that's what our community was looking for. It's what we as a brand really wanted to sit behind. We're storytellers, we're entertainers, and it was time to like take that leap. And from there, we have probably put the animation team, business team, everyone under the shortest timelines for the biggest releases of their entire career. And leaving that meeting, it was getting the screenwriters, getting a script ready, like starting to actually develop the animation, locking the scripts by the end of the year, which was like a gargantuan process. And now it's been really fun because we've been working in the shadows for those 9 months, getting all of the brand partnerships lined up, getting the Toronto Film Festival premiere lined up, and now we're in a place to be able to share a lot of what we've been cooking. So yeah, that's kind of where it was great for the company as well, because it gave us a really strong anchor and North Star of like, okay, we're building a film special, and like everything needs to align to that. And so it's really been great strategically to align the company and the community. So yeah, that's been the journey the last like 6 to 9 months.
I think you're just probably one, if not the best kind of project that's initiated in kind of the Web3 ecosystem and been able to break out while also still maintaining that deep connection to the community that you've built here. I think you've done that exceptionally well. And I love that you're touching all these different kind of silos with your IP. Like there's something for everybody. There's an entry point for everybody. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the creative process of like managing an IP like this, and why the decision to bring in, certain creators? And obviously you have probably one of the creative Renaissance men of our time, if not the Renaissance man of our time, Pharrell, behind creative, which definitely helps. So just talk to us about some of those partnerships and maybe, what you're excited about going forward.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think we have probably 3 competitive advantages that we know are really our moat that we try to lean into. One, you already mentioned in Pharrell as our chief brand officer, at a time where during the bear market vibes, every celebrity was leaving the space. Pharrell was only leaning further in. He's one of the largest shareholders in the company. He's very active in the decision making and helping to drive a lot of the conversations and give us a lot of credibility in the entertainment industry. Like, yes, having Julian, who has a phenomenal career at Billboard, to his name and has built incredible relationships throughout entertainment has been massively helpful. But like pairing them together to have these conversations with the record labels, to get musicians on board for Jules Records, to speak to the streaming services, to do all of these things has been instrumental in our ability to break through. Then obviously it starts first and foremost with Burnt Toast, the artist, and really the reason that I joined and a lot of other people joined is we're just such firm believers in his vision and in his art and his kindness. He's one of the most empathetic humans I've ever come across, and it's very infectious for the rest of the team. It's someone you want to spend a lot of time working with. And then lastly, and definitely not least, would be Golden Wolf. Our probably, I would say, biggest move to date was in acquiring an Emmy-nominated animation studio that has really cut their teeth in internet native content for the last decade, and they've done work for Nike and Disney and Epic and Fortnite and like all of these major companies, really as like almost a proving ground to lean in and build their own IP. And they know what it looks like to scale up and scale down projects and bring in a bunch of creatives. So Engi at the helm there has been fantastic. And so is Dottie Sanat, who is like really driving the like operation ship there of just making sure that we move on track and that we're bringing in the right talent and the voice acting and just keeping everything under budget and moving forward. So yeah, those like three creative pillars. And then I kind of alluded to it, but like the ship doesn't run in like keeping everyone very like clearly rowing in the right direction. And like there are calls only he can make. There are relationships only he has. Like it's probably one of the first times in my career where I've actually seen someone and said, "Oh, you're actually the only person that can do this job." Like there's not a swap out replacement that exists in this world. So very, very grateful to have him at the front as well.
Amazing. And just congrats on all the shipping that has been happening, because it's very exciting to see on the timeline. Obviously, this show, we've kind of been focused a lot on those who are building in the Superchain ecosystem. So anything that's built on the OP stack, especially highlighting projects that launched something during onchain summer. And you just announced recently the migration of the studio. Is it studio with double O?
You just couldn't pronounce it studio, but it is with two O's. Yeah.
You announced the migration to base, which is really exciting. But what motivated this move, and what benefits do you foresee for the Doodles community with this integration?
Yeah, we're incredibly excited and very appreciative of the warm welcome that we've already received since the announcement. This is a decision that's probably been roughly a year in the making since Base came out of testnet at FWB Fest last year. It's the chain that we've been spending a lot of time researching and getting to know the team and the ecosystem and just watching how they've built very creator focused. It speaks volumes to me and to the team. Someone like Jesse at the helm takes time out of his day to tweet out individual creators, and that they have this platform for grants for individual creators and are really focused on the long tail and seem to learn a lot of the lessons from the last cycle of how you actually attract developers and growth. And I think the results kind of speak for themselves at this point, and that they're the fastest growing L2 and they're doing it without a token is like very impressive in this market. And then it just came down to the relationships. Like we got an opportunity to meet Jesse. I met him roughly a year ago. I think Julian's known him even longer than that. And Sam and the rest of the team over the last year, and just built up a great relationship. And for us, we take a very long-term view. I came from Amazon, where I worked for 5 years, where notoriously Jeff Bezos had built like a millennium clock for the idea like that we are always taking like a very, very long-term approach. And we talk internally about how we want this to be a brand that our kids get to grow up and enjoy. And I am 31 and single, so I'm nowhere close to having kids. So it just kind of like gives you a sense of the timelines we think on. And so when we were evaluating where the home for the studio should be, we took that long-term approach of like who do we want to bet on, not for the next 6 months, but the next 5, 10, 15 years. And there was no one in the stratosphere close to Coinbase and Base when it came to that. And they've been phenomenal partners so far, and it's been really fun getting to dive into just like the OP ecosystem overall. And so we're very excited to be joining an already great cast of creators that exist here, and looking forward to partnering across the Superchain.
I share your enthusiasm. I've found that working with the OP team and just the kind of Superchain ecosystem at large is just so energizing, and this optimistic spirit that we see is what I think we've needed in kind of the on-chain ecosystem, with all the FUD that has happened over the last 2 years. So I'm very excited. Can you share like any plans in terms of the studio? Like what is it going to look like? Is there going to be tokenized access? I know you mentioned kind of user-generated content tools, loyalty awards. Can you give us a little bit of info around kind of the mechanics without breaking too much alpha? Because I don't want you to.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do my best to not get fired. So the studio for us is the hub of Doodles. It is the collector's hub, the 360 always on experience for anyone to come and experience part of the Doodles IP. And so it is where you really develop a sense of digital identity and progress through that identity. So getting to see the way in which you interact with Doodles, our experiences, our merchandise, our content, events, community, all like build on top of one another, all progress who you are within the ecosystem. And so like I think a good comparison for people is like if you go to Disney World right now, there's no way for them to really know who you are. They don't know the content that you've watched, the merch that you've bought. They just basically know if you have a super pass or not. Like that's like roughly the amount of data that they're working with. And sorry, if you have a fast pass, and so you can go, cut the line. Now imagine if you went to Disney and they knew that you were a fan of Star Wars, and not just a fan of Star Wars, but like you really liked Rogue One, and like that's where you're spending a lot of time and reading all the books around it, and you've gone to X amount of shows, and because of that, they could reward you by giving you personalized treatment. They greeted you by name. They had like special access that only you could have. And so they had like better ways to like reward, acknowledge, and validate your participation in the ecosystem, and then have you be a part of it, have you co-create and be rewarded for that. That's the vision of the studio, of this like digital experience where you are represented fully. And so from building out that digital identity to collecting experiences like that are gamified, to like loyalty and rewards, to merchandise, like everything will ultimately flow through there. And then token gated media is also going to be a big part of that, which we announced earlier this week with Doodles TV. So that's the vision behind it. It's very like big and audacious, and we're very excited.
I love it, and I think just bringing fans into experiences is just a wonderful place that we're heading to. And are you seeing any impact of that kind of directly yet in terms of engagement and participation? Have you managed to test this out with any of your super fans yet, or what's that experience been like?
Yeah, so we've had the studio in beta on its previous home since roughly last April we went live, and we've been very fortunate. I've previously had a past life in product, and the number one thing that you're always searching for is like strong user feedback. And I've never worked in an environment where we get more feedback from our community than here at Doodles. And so it's been a blessing to be able to actually like build this with them. We have a product council that meets on a consistent basis and is able to review upcoming features and get feedback on existing features. We've really been able to help develop like the user stories of like what we're looking to fulfill with them. Where they're most excited, what are new, like net new things that can only take place because of crypto and because of NFTs. So yeah, it's been great. We've really been like co-creating this with the community and making sure that we build a lot of features that they can be excited about and that will help us scale this IP.
So let's talk a little bit about Dullsville and the Doodleverse. This sounds pretty groundbreaking with all of the tech that you have kind of running alongside the storytelling. What can fans look forward to in this new animation and music experience? And how does it integrate with the overall vision for Doodles, that long-term vision?
Yeah. So we're looking to like completely redefine what the short film experience looks like. So right now, short films are usually relegated to like just a film festival, or they go straight to streaming, or you find them before like Pixar movie as a way for like their like up and coming team basically to test a bunch of new technology for the next upcoming films. They haven't really been given a lot of love as a category and really been able to be elevated to the same status as something like a movie. And so we're coming to market with a plan to really treat this as if it was a big box office premiere. So that means a massive rollout with multiple global brand partnerships. We've teased a few of those already. It is the music videos in Doodles Records. It's bringing a star-studded cast with Coi Leray, Lil Wayne, Sway Lee, all executive produced by Pharrell Williams. So bringing that like star-studded cast in as well. And then obviously we'll have like a host of like merchandise and building it up and really leading to drive out of the echo chamber of Web3 and breaking this into mass appeal, leading into our like red carpet event that we'll have at Toronto Film Festival, where the entire entertainment world will be and experience it. At the center of that, which I think is like really novel, is that like our community is there with us every step of the way. If you watch the trailer that was released last week, it featured a lot of notable community members, and not just like in a way in which they were like put in the background. Like we actually put their personality into the film itself. So one of our key community members, Ness, actually throws our main character Hap like off of the ship. And if you're a member of the Doodles community, you immediately like know why that is funny. Like he has always kind of like been that type of person in the community, and we love him to death. And so it felt like very fitting for his personality. So finding new and interesting ways to bring the community into this co-creation of IP, and whether that's in the film or in the product itself. And then I think that's really the last like major unlock. So driving all of this exposure that we're going to get into the studio, into this first party product, whether that be to experience the content first, which is what we talked about with Doodles TV earlier this week. So people being able to buy a pass to go in and experience the content and talk to the community and learn more about Doodles. That'll be the first access before it's released anywhere. There will also be like gamified tokens that they'll be able to collect. So different like different rarities of like posters and things like that, like fun little collecting games, bringing everyone in. And really it's because, and this is again where I think it's a little bit different. Like most people go to a film festival to go get a deal, to go get signed by a studio, to go to streaming. And it's not that we're not looking to do that. We've had plenty of conversations at the studio and streaming level, but we know that our secret sauce as a brand is that we are direct to community. Like we feel really confident that we are developing a business model and a community model that will allow us to continue to stay independent if we so choose. And I think that's really going to be the warning shot for the entire industry at large when we go out to market with the Super Pass, which will allow you to have access to all of the music videos, all of and the film before it goes live anywhere else, for something less than what you would pay for like a cup of coffee. That is a really strong message to the industry that we can do with thousands what takes them millions. So that's how we're thinking about this full rollout.
How important is kind of decentralized participation for you in this? Because I think what we've seen, and I give the Superchain and base credit for this, is just the layers of friction that were once here to participate in anything that involved a digital collectible or anything that involved on-chain activity were really quite complex. So, the average person couldn't just really participate in that. But I think as we've seen those layers just pull back and pull back, where now you can, have a wallet in a matter of seconds, you can purchase a digital asset with relative ease. Like, does that still continue to be a big part of what you're building? And how important is kind of getting the people who are not yet on chain? How important is it to kind of make that happen?
Yeah, it's massively important for us. Like, we want Doodles to be a household name. We want to be thought of in the same light as, the Mickey Mouses and the Pokemons and the Mario Brothers. And in order to do that, you have to be accessible. You have to meet people where they are. I think we, as a industry, have done a great job the last 18 months in moving from a place where the UX is a lot more simple. And I, to your point, I give the Superchain a lot of credit for that. It was a big reason that we decided to come over, is the idea that someone could create a smart wallet in seconds and be able to purchase with Apple Pay and start interacting with crypto. Like, that's a massive unlock. That's something that we're really leaned into. So we've always tried to build with that thought in mind of, we need to be able to grow a vibrant community and do it in a way that's sustainable and that people are excited and will continue to come back. And the only way to do that is to develop experiences that are 10x better than the ones that they have today, or familiar to ones that they have today, that don't require them to jump through any hoops. We've come a long way. We still have a long way to go, but it's been a core to our mission and how we build from the very get-go, and it's why we found such strong partners over here.
I've asked this question to a couple of founders with existing collections. Like, what would be the advantage at this point now? We know that you guys are doing a really good job of investing in the community that already exists and bringing them into creative and participation. But at this point, as for somebody who's watching this and feeling super inspired and wants to run and go pick up a doodle, like, what would they gain from that? Like, what are they buying into at this point?
Yeah, you're buying into a community. You're buying into a front seat to a journey of hopefully building one of the world's biggest IPs. That's the aspirations that we have. You're buying into having a direct relationship with the team, and being able to really see firsthand what goes into creating something special, and knowing that you were a part of it, and not just like a passenger, but that you were helping co-create what could hopefully be one of the best brands in the world. So that's really what I lean into. Like, we're looking to be the world's best brand for community and fandom, and for people to want to come here to feel a sense of belonging, and to grow this with us, I think is incredibly important.
So to commemorate the partnership that you just did with Base, Doodles did release an open edition on Zora. How has the community responded, and what is the significance in terms of what it holds for the future? I did, full transparency, pick up quite a few. So if anybody wants, definitely let me know, and maybe we'll give a couple away. But that was a really cool thing to do. It was again, another entry point for people to just come and grab a little piece of the pie and feel like they're participating in this ecosystem. But do you see kind of things like that over the next couple of months, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I'll give a little alpha away on this show, because you picked up a few. Really, really appreciate it. It was, so I had been studying like going viral on chain for a while. I'm very fortunate to have friends that are like at the forefront of like the creator economy, whether it's like Cooper Turley and everything that he's doing around music, or Adam Levy and what he's been doing with Bello, and the Mint podcast, and just like getting to learn from my peers and seeing them at like the top of the charts like every week was like really raising a lot of flags of like, oh, this open edition meta is something that we need to pay attention to. There's clearly like a playbook that they're running. For us, it was a really interesting experiment in that everyone is kind of like in the PFP brigade, if you will, kind of scared to sell NFTs right now. Like, you're not really seeing anyone, particularly on Ethereum, sell NFTs, in part because of macro conditions and, not wanting to sell anything to their communities. And so it's kind of, you haven't like seen like anything that's been like new and vibrant and exciting from like the legacy of like 2021, 2022, like PFP projects, in my opinion. And that presented a really interesting us, one, as a business, and two, just in terms of acquisition. Like, we want to continue to grow this community. We want to find sustainable ways of doing so. We knew from just our brand's reach that there are way more fans of Doodles than there are Doodles holders. So like, how can we find continued ways to bring them into the community? I think one is in bringing them in through the wearables and the avatars and everything that we're doing in the studio and bringing them to base. That's going to be like the massive unlock. And then two is, how can we find these like collectible moments and really like define like a program out of that? So I was pretty blown away by the response, and I give a lot of credit to our partners at Zora and Coinbase for featuring us, Layer 3 for working really closely with us, and Boost for helping with some of the questing campaigns, and just like going viral. We were the #1 mint for probably a week on the top of mint.fun, and that was really like a testament to everyone's hard work. And then of course the art, like, it was something that people wanted to collect. It's just like a really cool piece. So coming out of that, we did a lot of like postmortem. I worked with Adam and his team at Bello to try to understand all of the on-chain data. Who are the people that are actually minting this? What do the wallets look like? What was their intention in doing so? Where did the mint traffic come from? Surprisingly, still a lot of like challenging Web 2 web traffic answers in there. But I'm confident that the people that are working in this data space are finding solutions, which get me like pretty bullish on it. But we learned a lot of like really interesting things. Like, it's a very different cohort than a traditional Doodles holder. These are wallets that are typically pretty new, like have been created within the last 6 months. They typically do not have a lot of ETH in their wallets compared to people that own PFPs, which makes sense, right? Like, you need a lot less ETH to buy something that's $3 than you do to spend, something that's like 5,000. And so, yeah, there was like a lot to be learned there in terms of like how we could incorporate this into our strategy. And then we spent a lot of time with Zora thinking through like, okay, how can we create basically our on-chain Instagram? So I was teasing some alpha. We're actually going to be going live in August with a program with Zora that looks to feature some of our top performing like reels and social content on Zora for people to mint. So there'll be open editions. They'll come out on a set cadence. It'll be for probably like 72 hours. It'll be open for roughly the same price point as the open edition mint that we did for the announcement. And it's something that like our community has really been asking for a while. They're like, we want to mint these social shorts. When are you going to let us mint these social shorts? And we just wanted to do it in a way that was non-dilutive, that, felt like it was something that you could have as a collector, and that would feel special and have meaning. So we're going to do a lot of branding around it. But yeah, that's kind of like one of the ways that we're experimenting with this like open edition meta, lower price point for ways to get people in. And then once we have all of those new community members, how can we bring them into the studio and start to build out their relationship with the brand?
I love this. It reminds me a little bit of like the kind of Top Shot approach, right? Like taking those little clips and giving people ownership in that. That's really exciting. And then I think like you said, like having that data and being able to potentially take people through the product cycle and level up to the next offer is always really exciting. I heard somebody at NFT Paris who was from the fashion space talk about how to kind of give a layperson an understanding of how powerful this technology is. She said it's like having, like when somebody buys a garment in a store, right, and they go home and they leave, like you may have an email address, like that's it. But this, where we're at right now with on-chain technology and wallet technology, is that we know essentially everything that's in their closet, and we can make informed decisions about what products we put in front of them. So it's kind of a marketer's dream.
100%.
So I'm excited to see that you're really kind of entrenched in the research around that and working with some of these amazing protocols like Zora. You've been doing some stuff on Drac as well. I've seen some stuff on Dracula. Can we expect to see anything else from you over there?
Yeah. So it was one of my claims to fame was on Farcaster like very early. I think my FID is like 2000 or something like that. Before I was at Doodles, I was doing a bunch of like, I was doing this. I had like a podcast and I was doing a newsletter and doing some consulting in between my last role and joining Doodles. And so I got like deep down the Farcaster rabbit hole and have been in and out of that ecosystem for a while and been paying attention to just like the ecosystem growth, whether it be like frames or Dracula and how we could kind of be early. So for us, it was like a no brainer. Like, let's start to build out an on-chain footprint there and just like blast out our content there like we do everywhere else. I think we're continuing to monitor how that grows. I think right now the ecosystem overall is like a little bit of like plateau, which I think is totally normal after some explosive growth coming out of like the frames phase. And so I'm curious what the next like big unlock will be there, but it's something we're continuing to look through. We have a community council at Doodles. We've been talking a lot about like what are interesting products that we can build on chain with the community as like experiments, and then eventually have like basically absorbed into Doodles brand overall. So we've got a few things that we're kicking the tires on to see if they can make sense. But Dracula does. I think we're the only like major PFP brand that I've seen on there. So that's been fun, and we think there will be an advantage of just being there early and continuing to post.
That first mover advantage. Yeah, it's definitely notable because your content really stands out because it's so well produced amongst.
It's very different than everything else on there right now, for sure.
So I just want to take the last couple of minutes just to do a quick run through so folks can see the new website and everything that you guys have going on. So maybe you could just talk us through some of this. So this is if you go to Doodles, right?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, please. I would love to hear from you.
Well, I was just going to flag. So this is actually not the new one yet.
Okay.
So we announced that the migration is happening. That live date is imminent. We'll actually go live with something on X when people can actually bridge over and start interacting with the new studio. But it has like a facelift and everything that will be coming. I'm happy to like walk through this though, because it gives like kind of like a general overview of some of like the key features. Yeah. So if you come here, the first thing that we want everyone to be able to do is create a doodle. Once this is so you'll see right now it like takes you through a flow where you're able to go and like create your own doodle.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so at the end of this, basically when you complete it, it creates an NFT. All of the individual wearables are NFTs, but like I mentioned, like this whole flow is getting revamped and will look a little bit different. And will be built on base.
This is nice. Oh, you can do backgrounds.
So you can do backgrounds. Those wearables are all Dolesville wearables. So they're all gray, but you can go and like buy like Doodles wearables from OGs that exist on marketplaces. We have a great partnership that I cannot talk about yet, but base wearables will be featured prominently on one of the top marketplaces, which we're very excited about being able to announce soon. But yeah, so like I mentioned, this is still the old flow. The new one will be coming imminently, and people can go create their doodles. They'll be able to see the things that they own. They'll be able to explore our content, merchandise. This will also be where Doodles TV is. So when we premiere our music videos and the film, this is where you'll go. The brand partnerships will be here. So it'll all flow through here.
It feels like this would just lend itself so well to gaming and like interoperability across platforms. Do you see gaming in the future?
So we're not a gaming studio, but we are very into the idea of allowing people to use their doodles in environments where they're already spending time. So whether that is traditional gaming or it is social content, and using it as a form of expression. We definitely are exploring all of those avenues, and we're talking to a bunch of a host of partners of ways that we can get doodles in those environments.
Amazing. All right. Well, before I let you go, what are you most looking forward to? You've got so much coming up. Like, what's really lighting you up right now?
Um, I think the film premiere, it's a long time coming, and I think it's going to be a celebration for the entire community. For years of this was the vision, and it's just been really gratifying for us to move from a place of like an age of promises to an age of execution, and just seeing how we've collectively built something from nothing, like something that was just a collection of incredible art into now characters that have life and meaning and have their own stories and backgrounds, and a community that has developed and iterated with us like through everything. And then, on a selfish note, the premiere is like a couple days before my birthday. It's in Toronto. I'm from Rochester, which is just across Lake Ontario. So my parents are coming, and they'll be able to actually like see what their crazy son does when I tell them that I sell cartoons for a living. So I'm very excited for that. They've never like been to a Doodles event before, and for them to get to meet the team, and it's gonna be a really special moment.
That is beautiful, and we love the human experiences around new technology. So, happy early birthday! Best of luck with everything. Thank you for spending some time with us. We are also going to get to hear from you on the timepieces X Space next week, so we're really excited about that. But just amazing, amazing work, and we love the doodles. So, thanks so much, Austin.
Thank you so much for having me. We'll see you on Monday.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a great Friday.